you can see me okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So James, um, I know we talk privately, but still, like, can you introduce yourself for the audience?
Of course. My name is James Malechek. Uh, Currently, I work with China Swimming Association as their strength and conditioning coach. I've been in this role for a little over 4 years now. Previous to this, I've worked with semi-pro and pro hockey, um, with some Division I universities through mentorship, some internships with the NSCA and some other like local organizations for high schools and private. So I've done a little bit of everything.
Nice. So, uh, besides, like, let's say, training athletes in China, what do you think are the main difference between training a athlete, let's say, outside of Asia and in Asia?
Um, I think one of the biggest differences that I've seen is athletes outside of like because I've only worked with Chinese athletes so far. Um, One of the biggest differences I see is athletes outside of China, they tend to have more access to information, meaning they're more caught up on supplements. They're more they've probably had several different, whether it be personal trainers or strength and conditioning coaches, um, and probably I don't want this to sound bad, but they're a little bit more uh, like they can be a little bit trickier to work with because they have such a bigger knowledge base that sometimes if they've been with a coach that they really trust, sometimes when you try to make changes to technique and stuff like that, there can be some pushback until you really build um, like their trust. Versus here, um, I've worked with because the way that the swimming team is set up, they operate in smaller groups, so anywhere from like 4 to let's say 12 athletes per coach. Um, they're much more like, yes, okay, I'll do this. Yes, okay, like if I need to make changes, it's a bit simpler. Um, Especially once you can get through the language barrier. I think then you can really start to make a fairly quick progress with them as far as changing things. Um, I think those are probably the biggest differences that I've seen here.
Nice. So, um, do you speak Chinese or do you speak Mandarin right now?
I speak enough to get by.
Oh,
Um, when I first arrived in China, I did have like a dedicated translator who would travel with me and so on. Um, but once, because we went into lockdown in January 2020, and it was a bit of a like logistical nightmare because nobody really knew what was going on and everything was kind of a mess. So the translator that I had at the time, they weren't able to get her onto the base to basically be locked in with us. So then I didn't have a translator, so little by little I've been studying it.
nice, nice. So, uh, because I talked to like Rolf Ullman and some great coaches
Yep.
who worked in China no matter it's like also like JD Snyder and Cody.
Mhm.
They both worked in China before, and I believe they are more fortunate to have a translator, but even when they have a dedicated translator, they still think that the language barrier is a huge gap. Do you think it is for yourself? I'm sorry.
So, so I think one of the big things is like in my time that I've been here, I've had probably 8 different translators. Now, some of them were excellent. Like they were absolutely phenomenal translators. Some of them got stuck as a translator, but they were really more, they're a student at like the university and they're coming in as an internship for like maybe swimming mechanics or whatever else, and they just happen to speak English. Um, Speaking firsthand, the last translator I had, she was phenomenal. But she was actually a dedicated translator who she was going to school for her master's degree in like foreign translation and foreign affairs. So the biggest differences I noticed with her was like let's say across the board when I was started to learn Chinese, it was very much like, oh, like the word for power and strength is just Baofali. But she goes, yeah, it's the same word apparently. That's the way they taught it to me. But she goes, no, that's not really correct because it's kind of the lazy way to say it. She goes, what you really want to say is like this would be just strength, but if you're trying to produce power, you should be using like explosive force. And recognizing like she actually took the time, like when we would give presentations, she would actually sit down with me and we would go through and she would ask these extra questions where you could see it in the coaches' faces, you can see it in the athletes' faces when they go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, now I fully get it. So I completely agree. Like not all translators are the same. And when you get one that's really, really knowledgeable and asks these extra little questions, it makes all the difference.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. Love that. Love that. That's cool. That's a cool experience, man. Really, really cool. And by the way, your Mandarin is really good.
No, no, my Chinese is not very good.
Cool. No. So, uh, so kind of want to go back to like training swimming athletes because currently you're
Mhm.
training water-based athlete. Am I right? Am I using the word term
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So, what are the main difference between like training athlete that is land-based and training athlete that is like water-based?
Um, I think one of the biggest differences, because it's kind of a unique exception here, because the athletes get specialized at such a young age that they really have only done this one sport. So, for example, most of my athletes, even though they're in their, let's say, 18 to 25, most of them have been swimming, 14 to 18 years already. So for them, it's a bit different. Like, because they've specialized at such a young age, they've never really developed any of the skills outside of the water. So they're, no pun intended, they're literally fish out of water. Like it's a bit comical to watch them sometimes. Um, Versus like in the past, like I've worked with swimming athletes before, and more times than not, most of them have had some type of, oh, maybe I played soccer when I was a kid, or maybe I did baseball or football or whatever else. So they've developed some coordination and some skills on the land. So it's easier for them to kind of mesh it all together. Whereas here, it's completely new to them, and to actually get them to, let's say, like, because my background, I was a former wrestler, to do some skills like forward rolls or like backwards rolls. They're the concept of being out of water and actually having to do a roll, they almost like freeze up because they're like, I don't understand where my body really should be. So
Yeah,
it's, yeah, it's kind of comical, but I mean, they're slowly but surely they're getting there.
cool, cool. So since you brought up like early specialization, I know the answer is it depends, but kind of want to know your thought on mm, like athlete getting athletes athlete that is getting only one sport in such a young age, and the only thing they do is like swimming or like no mass is sprinting in China. I think in China, if you sprint, you only do the only thing you do is sprint. If you do like Olympic weightlifting, the only thing you're gonna do is Olympic weightlifting. There's not. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say it's not long-term athletic development. They have their own thoughts or they have their own way of n- nurturing athletes, but for developing overall human performance, what are your thoughts on like early specialization?
It's funny you bring that up because uh, one of the people who does the swim analysis for us, we just had this conversation. Um, because she asked me point blank, she goes, what's the difference between like a US athlete for long term development versus a Chinese? And I think really what it comes down to is early specialization. Yes, you can have it, but the skills that you'll develop from other sports, they're oftentimes missing it. So, like, I think one of the big examples with swimming would be like their starts and their turns. So, normally, as a kid growing up, maybe I'm not taught sprinting per se, but if I see other kids running, well, I can kind of figure out how to run, and I can kind of start to figure out how to develop these skills on my own. Then once you maybe get into some of the youth sports, you're actually taught some of these skills on a little bit finer basis. But with them specializing so early, they don't get that exposure. So when we look at like a lot of their starts and their turns, they have power, but they're very inefficient with how they actually utilize it. And they're very just clumsy, I guess is almost the best word to use, simply because they don't, they've never really got exposure to it. They've only been on a fixed platform of, okay, the only time I really have to drive my legs is off of starts and off my turns. So for them, without actually having that like development as a child, it makes things really really difficult because now we have to actually go back and teach them how to develop some of these skills, and it's a slow process, and it really takes a lot of time of just breaking this idea within their head of going, okay, you can be fast, you can develop power, and here's how we're going to do it. And they're, but this is how I've always done it. So it's kind of this constant battle of break the habit, reinforce, break the habit, reinforce. So, because I understand, like the oldest girl in my group is 25, and she's been swimming since she's 6. She's only done swimming. So to break some of her habits, it's a fair bit of work. But had she probably done this as a child, it would be a bit different story.
Cool, cool. So, um, for athletes there, because like personally I train like soccer, football, basketball. Basically they're
Mhm.
all land-based, but never touch an athlete needs that goes in the water. So personally, this is personally I want to ask is uh what, like, besides like the sprinting side of thing, if you're gonna train these athletes, what are the main difference? Or big, or like, let's say on the land we need to sprint, we need to change the direction, so we need to apply force directly to the ground. But in water, besides like the jump start, they need to like the force apply different. Am I right?
I yeah, I know what you mean. So because I'll be fully honest, I was not a swimming athlete. I will never claim to be a swimming athlete. But the biggest thing is you understanding the mechanics. So when they come into swimming, one of the biggest things that I heard was you need to be able to feel the water. And I always thought that that's crazy. Okay, how can I feel water? Water's a liquid. It's not something I can really truly pull against. But as I've been working with them longer and longer, you begin to understand when they're actually in that water and when they're actually trying to produce the force to propel them forward. It's really about how connected they can be, shoulder to elbow, elbow to wrist, wrist to fingers. Because if at any point something within that chain breaks, you lose the force to actually propel yourself in the water. Now, it's a bit different for every stroke because a butterfly is, depending on who you read, I kind of sit at the like 70% upper body, 30% lower body, where you're propelling yourself forward with your pull while your double kick is keeping you flat to the water versus like let's say a breaststroke where I'm propelling myself up out of the water, I catch and I pull while I'm kicking with my feet forward. So most of the strokes, like butterfly, freestyle, and breaststroke, all have similarities in that at a certain point in that stroke, we're going to be coming into almost a hook and we're going to be pulling either through or in breaststroke, we're going to be coming back up. So there is that, there's portions where it's similar and in that when we are actually applying the force, if everything is correct through the arm, we're pulling, we're engaging our lats. That's what's pulling us through. Backstroke's a little bit funny because you're coming up over and then you get kind of a weird little hook and push. So it's a bit more triceps. There is some lats to it, but how they have to feel the water, it's not quite the same as I would say for a lot of the other strokes. Um, but yeah, it really, really comes down to where can I keep my arm position? And if I'm starting to break on my arm position, that's where I really start to have problems in the water, because one of the main things for us is typically the way my coach kind of has everything set up is he looks a lot at how many strokes they're taking per, let's say, 50. So let's say on their dive starts, they go in, they get their butterfly kicks out, they come up at, let's say, 13, 14 meters, and then they're going to take, let's say, 18 or 19 strokes. So it gives us a visual representation of if they're actually producing power how we think they are and propelling themselves forward, they should hit that. If they're exceeding it, they might get there in, let's say, maybe 17 strokes. But if they're just not feeling the water that day, or if there's other issues, maybe it ends up being 20, 21 strokes. So we can instantly get feedback of going, okay, yeah, that's something's not right there. You sit down, you can talk to the athlete. And then when we actually can watch the underwaters, you'll see, yeah, they started to get tired, wrist kind of flailed, and they lost the water that they were supposed to be holding on to and pulling with. It's it's so different to what we would see with a land-based sport, because they're applying it, but they also, you know, you get into such like small details of their buoyancy affects how they pull. Their kick rate affects how they pull. Their kick rate affects how they sit in the water. So it's so weird. Um, yeah, I could go on quite a while for that one.
No, it's okay. Go on. I love that. I love that, man. I mean, th those for me personally, like coaches training, like performance coaches or like strength coaches are training basketball, right? Training basketball player are a lot different than like let's say 10 years ago. There's a lot of like coaches mimic the movement in the sport. And it also happens in like let's say rugby, football. So please, I love that. And it's really good.
Well, I mean, I'm in a bit of a unique situation right now because within the current group that I'm working with, we've got three different female athletes. One of them is a specialist in the 50 and the 100 butterfly. One of them is a specialist in just the 200 butterfly. One of them is top three in the world for all three. So we get this unique scenario where I can actually go and watch all three of them race on a daily basis, and I can start to pick out exactly who does what better, who has better portions compared to somebody else. How are they sitting in the water? Like a good example is the two girls who swim 200 butterfly. If you look at them off the kicks, they look very similar. But the difference comes when they actually get into their pulling, because you can see the efficiency of one girl versus the inefficiency of the other girl. The other girl, she really struggles to keep the water when she's pulling. And that's one of her biggest issues, why she tends to have a fair amount of inconsistency in her like race times. Now the other girl, granted, she is the Olympic gold medalist. She's very, very good at the event. Okay. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. But seeing how she attacks into the water and how she hooks it and she pulls herself, you know, within within a 50-meter race, with them both taking off at the same time, the one girl can get about a full body length ahead. So you're talking anywhere from about 2 to 2.5 meters ahead of the other girl in just a 50. Versus if we look at, like the 50 and the 100 specialist. She's a very efficient girl. She's arguably more efficient than the other girl. The problem is she doesn't have the top end speed to keep up with her. So these are these little like nuances where, yeah, her underwater kick is so much better, it's so smooth. But when they get on top of the water, she can just absolutely race her down. Um, but it puts me in a real unique position because not many other people can actually see so many girls at such an elite level race each other on a day-to-day basis, and you can actually start to break down, like, we watch their underwaters, we watch their arm positions. Like, I get a pretty unique perspective of just how in depth they allow me to actually partake in like the coaching of her. So it's not just that I work with her on land, but I actually get to coach her a little bit within the water and stuff like that too. So it really helps my knowledge to start to see all these little differences, and then I can start to take that and put it into our actual strength and conditioning.
Love that, man. So having that knowledge of like of a swimmer and getting to like see all those movements and decrypt like all those details, does that like changes the way you program like strength training in the weight room? Because I know I ask a lot of like hard question, but like to what, because like personally I train a lot of like sprinter, that kind of stuff. So triple extension and like I said, pushing into the ground is important for, but for like swimmers, is it like, is it the same with triple extension, or you have to focus more on the upper body, and how do you program these?
So in my situation, I do get a lot of freedom because it's smaller groups. Like right now, I have 8 athletes. So I write 8 individual programs for every athlete because I have that flexibility to actually do that because of the situation. Um, but the bigger thing is a lot of the information that I see within these like swimming breakdowns and everything like that. I do take a lot of it and I'll apply it into our programming. So like let's say going back to the girl who's 200 butterfly, one of her biggest issues is she can't maintain form for a whole race. So one of the bigger issues for her is she just doesn't have the muscular endurance. But she also doesn't have the muscular strength in order to do, because I'm a big component for a lot of my swimmers for like overly strict pull-ups, because if I want their lats and their shoulders to be working in sync, I don't want a butterfly pull-up. I want it strict, and I want you to be engaged, and you know I want a full bar clearance. I don't want to see you trying to be a turtle and get your chin over. Um, but she's not ready for that. So what I'll end up doing is I'll maybe drop her down to, like, for the time being, maybe we'll drop down to lat pull downs, and I'll start to focus on her with basically getting her to be extended through her lat or through her scap into a retraction and then into an actual engagement through the full range of motion. Um, because specifically for her, we've already established she doesn't have the endurance and she doesn't have the strength. So how can I get the most bang for my buck? Well, I break the exercise down. I give it in I give it to her in a more controlled form so that we can increase both and get kind of start to get everything right where it needs to be. Now, some of my other athletes, they've progressed well past that. So, you know, I they might not like me for it, but we do a fair amount of pulling, whether it be pull-ups, whether it be rowing, whether it be shoulder presses, variety of stuff. Most of the program, I would say it's probably, mm, depending on the athlete, 50 to 70% upper body, and then the remaining is lower body. But again, it depends on everything. Like for I work with one of the breaststroke boys, and weighted pull-ups are too easy for him. He's gotten up to like 60 kg for singles. And he goes, I want something more challenging. So, okay. So now I get to be a little bit more creative with him. So, like right now, we're working on front levers where he's got to be able to maintain straight body position while he's in his vertical position. So, I mean, they're world class swimmers. They are, and some of them are freakishly talented. So I get to be pretty creative with some of them. I mean, I have one girl, she's, what is she, 62 kilos? She can do 45 kilos for weighted pull-ups. Like, it makes me
That's
pretty
so
happy to actually
strong.
see her. She's freakishly strong.
Yeah, freakishly strong.
So, like, it's little things like that that, yeah, for their upper bodies, I want them to be stronger because if you look across the board, you look at people like Adam Peaty. Adam Peaty is massive, but he's the fastest in the world. If you look at Caleb Dressel, he's leaner, but the guy's fast. If you look at so many of these different examples of elite swimmers in the world, you start to find a lot of the similarities. Now, that doesn't mean I don't, my athletes still do cleans, they still do snatches, we still do plenty of triple extension work. But for some of them, like my peer sprinters, they get a little bit more because a start is more important for them in the race. And they need that extra little bit of explosive power versus somebody who's a bit more endurance. Yeah, I still work on it, but I want I want a stronger upper body because throughout a race, they're going to need it more than a lower body specifically for a start.
Nice. So, uh, besides like strength training, um, for if I want to develop like an energy system, because like there's like different, basically it's a lot different with land-based sports. So, and I talk with some of the performance coach who work with uh water-based athlete before. They basically said
Mm-hmm.
that for swimmers, the energy system is a lot special, but they develop that when they're in their like tactical work, like just training swimming. What are your thoughts on like
For sure.
developing energy system?
For sure. I mean, as much as I would want to do energy system work with them, most of these guys are swimming anywhere from, you know, 40 to 100K a week. Like, if I want to actually get energy system training, I would have to they would have to do less in the pool, I think. Um, and that's kind of the tricky part with them is as much as I want to do it, I have to pick and choose because at the end of the day, like my personal philosophy is I'm there to assist them for their swimming. What I do shouldn't replace their swimming. So it's because if they can't swim, that's a problem. Um, so I tailor a lot of my plan around what coach does. And this is one of those where we have a good line of communication. So oftentimes, when he wants like specific, like let's say they're going to do speed work in the pool, he might have it set up where they come in the morning before the pool session. Let's say maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour and a half. I'll get them prepped. We'll do like some speed work with maybe some cleans, some snatches, maybe some heavy singles and stuff like that, just to get them firing. And then they go into the pool. So I do a little bit, but a, I would say 95%, if not maybe a hair more, it's coming from their swim work. And it's just how they're kind of set up.
Cool, cool, cool. So last question before I let you go, okay? I really,
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy this. Um, because the way you describe like swimming in so like such a detail, uh, there must be tons of coaches that are passionate in swimming or passionate in like different sports. So like how many hours did you dedicate to like to learn? Because you're not a swimmer before, but from the things you mentioned, from the things you told me, you must spend a lot of time. So how much time did you dedicate to learn a new sport, to learn the movement of swimming, to learn the mechanic? And for um and for those who strength coaches or younger strength coaches, what are some recommendations or some advice for them?
So when I first joined the team, because I've worked with swimmers before, but it's within the college setting, it's a bit different because they're student athletes. So as much as we would like to spend time with them and so on, we only get X amount of time. And with scheduling and everything else, maybe you don't get to see the practice, or maybe you get to see one practice a week. Where I am currently, I get to watch them swim. Let's see, one, two, three, four, or sorry, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. I get to watch 8 swim sessions a week if I want to. Now, normally I would probably sit somewhere at about like 6, because sometimes I have like prep for them and other stuff. But given like we were in lockdown for 2, almost 3 years, um, I got to watch them every single day. I get to talk to them every single day. I I keep tracking sheets of them. I keep uh like basically logs of like post race because to me one of the most valuable pieces of information is, at least with swimming, when I get to talk to them post race, to me that's the most beneficial information that I can get from them ever, because it's what everything culminates together. And after the race finishes, I can get so much more detailed information, meaning, you know, how did you feel? How was this part? And they can give me that real direct breakdown and going, okay, my overall time was good. I felt my first 100 was good. Maybe my third 100, I started to fatigue a little bit, but I pushed through. I kind of got a second wind. But that last 50 was brutal. I just didn't have it in me, you know. And then you can get into these deeper questions of, hey, was it is there something we could have done to change that? Is this just a one-off where, yeah, I didn't really feel the best coming into the competition, or did we mess up the taper? Like, it's little things like that where I get to take all the knowledge that I learn on a day-to-day basis, whether it be swim technique, whether it be talking to them in the gym or any other situations, and I get to put it together, compile it, and go, okay, where did we hit the mark? What was okay? And where did we miss? And then I can start to decide, okay, you know, maybe we needed a little bit more leg work. Maybe we cut out a day early on the taper. And I can have these conversations with coach as well, because coach says, hey, I think X, Y, and Z went well, but this part and this part, we missed the mark a little bit, or there was a little flaw in your technique. You took an extra breath. So being able to apply all of that information and everything that I learn on a day to day helps me get the clearest picture, and then I can individualize every single program for the athletes in a better manner. So I think one of the biggest things for other coaches is, I know it's not always the easiest workaround for some of us with scheduling conflicts and everything else, but if you get to watch like their practices, I think it gives you a good idea. If you get to speak to them post competition, I think it's better. Um, because I mean, at the end of the day, we're not training for practice, we're training for competition. And we're training for, we want to hit target time, we want to execute this play or whatever. So that type of feedback, I think, is the most important for us. And I think oftentimes a lot of people don't get the opportunity to actually ask those questions, or see any of those uh, like results firsthand, because it's not, unless you're working in like a one-on-one basis, because if you work with multiple groups and multiple teams, everybody's time gets a little bit shorter, and sometimes you just miss stuff. So I'm a big believer that if you can get out there and actually watch them, it really, really makes a lot of difference.
Love that, man. Love that, man. Truly. I appreciate the chance for like let me invite you on my podcast. I really did. So, for those who are interested in what we are talking about today, or for those who are really interested in talking like swimming performance with you, where can they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me on Twitter. They can reach out to me on Instagram. Those are probably the two easiest ones. So I think it's Coach Malechek for both of them.
Cool. Cool. Appreciate that, man.
No problem. Happy to be on.